Hi everyone, welcome back to Swiss Home Garden. Chitra here. In today's video, I will be sharing with you a garden tour of a summer garden. Let's begin. Let's start from the front yard. We planted a few flowers into this big pot. Planting flowers are a great way to attract bees into your garden. We planted a few varieties, but only these zinnias are thriving. Moving on to the backyard, this is our maize bed. You saw us planting a lot of them around May. It looks like we planted them a little bit too close to each other, because of which the bigger plants don't get enough energy and the smaller plants are taking energy, but they are not really very productive. So we decided to remove out the smaller ones to increase the nutrients and the energy for the bigger plants. You see them, they are already fruiting, but it does take a few more days for us to harvest them. Moving across the stream to the main vegetable garden, here you see the cucumber patch. We had a really good harvest this year due to the wet summer. We shared a few of our harvest with our neighbors and friends, but still there was plenty to go around. As a result, I also lacto-fermented them in addition to eating them raw and in salads. Personally, I don't really digest raw cucumbers so well, so lacto-fermenting was a great option. And that way we can enjoy these cucumbers for a little bit longer in a healthier way. I was actually intending to post this video since about a couple of weeks, but was delayed due to the other urgent projects which we were doing around our garden and home. Hopefully I can edit those videos and share them with you. Moving across over here, we have a few pumpkin varieties in this part of the garden. This one is great for soups. In this bed, we had planted a few varieties of salads early spring. But after some time, the salads do mature and they don't taste so great. So we decided to let them flower to collect the seeds for next year. This year, we plan to collect as much of heirloom seeds from our own garden for planting next year. I'm also making a seed bank for future use. Beside the salads, after harvesting the spinach and clearing that patch, we planted some carrots and some salad radishes. But only a couple of salad radishes and carrots have survived and are thriving. This is also due to the warm weather. The ideal time to plant them would be when it is cooler, and right now the temperature has cooled down. If we plant them in the next few days, we could have a good fall harvest. On this side, we have a couple of onion beds. We harvested all of our onions and potatoes about a couple of weeks back. At the time of filming this video, the tomatoes were not yet ripe, but in the meantime, all the tomatoes are ripening and we are having a relatively good harvest compared to last year. Some curry leaves in this pot. In this small patch, we also had some more potatoes. The only surviving bottle gourd we attached to this stick here, but it is a little bit late in fruiting. And over here we have the zucchini. We planted only the round variety this year. This round variety is not yielding as much as the longer variety. In one of my earlier videos, you saw us trimming all the strawberry plants and covering them up with straw. We did this after the big harvest. Now you can see that they are fruiting again, but this will not be a huge big harvest of strawberries. They will be fruiting till late autumn. In this patch, we planted some winter salads after harvesting the potatoes. Below the cherry tree is another pumpkin, and you can get also a glimpse of our sea buckthorn berry bushes. Moving on to our tomato greenhouse. These are ripening much more than what is shown in this video. We had actually planted a few varieties of tomatoes but forgot what we had planted. Since we had germinated a lot of the tomatoes, we didn't have too much space to plant them. So we shared a few of the plants with our neighbors. Right now we have only 2 main varieties out of the many varieties we germinated and cultivated. This variety is the watery one. I would have preferred one with a little bit more flesh as it's much easier to can them. Beside the cucumbers, we also have a couple of kale. Kale is a typical winter green. We will be planting a few more for the winter in our fall garden planting. And here you see a couple of okras. These okras are not doing too well outside due to the cold summer. Usually we plant them in the greenhouse, but somehow we planted them outside and took the chance. Let's move on to the greenhouse. To my left are all the chilies. We harvested quite a bit so far. I could pickle them when they were green way back in May, and then later on when they ripened, I also lacto-fermented them. After lacto-fermenting them, I made a hot chili sauce. It's actually quite tasty and it would fit well with the raclette cheese. This big creeper towards the edge of the greenhouse is the physalis. This was actually planted last year, but they survived the winter because the winter was relatively mild, and it has been growing ever since. That we have to cut down now and again so that the other plants get enough light. This creeper on this side is the bitter melon. This year they did yield quite well. We have been able to harvest at least a dozen or so of the bitter gourds. Below the bitter gourds are a couple of aubergines, but they seem not to be doing too well. They need a lot of help from us, that my husband has actually been pollinating them whenever he comes to the greenhouse. The bee activity inside the greenhouse is a little bit too little for our needs, but we have a wasp nest up in the roof. Our rhubarb, and we are harvesting for the second time since about a couple of weeks. This banana tree was taken from the stem of the bigger tree and we planted them in this part, and it seems the banana tree is loving this ground too. Moving on to the raised beds. In this smaller raised bed, we planted a few flowers, and the only thing which is doing really well is the cosmos. On the bigger raised bed is our herb garden. After taking out some of the herbs, I have over here in this pot a few flowers, and these are some perennials which I picked up from a friend of mine. After clearing up our front yard and the slopes and enriching the soil, we plan to plant them. And this should give a good curb appeal. And beside this flowers is also some garden cress, chives and rucola. These marigolds are my daughter's school project. Last fall, we planted a couple of fruit trees in this edge towards the slope. In spring, on this Mirabelle plums, we saw a lot of flowers, but somehow they did fall off, and we could get just a couple more than what is on this tree itself. But since this is the first year, this is to be expected. Hopefully next year we get a better yield from this Mirabelle. This apple tree is on the common ground, and it was time to harvest them after we started to get a lot of wasps in our garden and also inside our home. This year, the wasp infestation was really big in and around Zurich. This was due to the warm spring and a cold summer. Since these are summer apples, they don't store well for the winter months. So I made about 20 jars of applesauce and canned them. With this, I end my tour and video. I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and thank you for watching. If you're new to my channel, kindly subscribe. I post one new video every week on food from scratch, Swiss country living, gardening and natural recipes. See you in my next video. Bye bye.